Machedo, Sweeney from LoyMachedo.com. And who is Loy Machedo? And yes, not to forget my latest venture, that is thinkpersonalbranding.com. Okay. I am finally going to start my book reviews, after stopping it for quite a long time. I think I've not done a book review in months. Anyway, coming back to my book reviews. So the first one that I thought would be appropriate would be Private Dancer by Stephen Leather. Stephen Leather, Private Dancer. Now, let me give you a background. First and foremost is I hate fictional books. The reason being is they just take you into this world of impossible stuff, imaginative stuff that you'll never experience in the real world. That's why I kind of dislike fictional books. I like to mainly focus on self-improvement, non-fiction, more books that are into science. So not very much into storytelling. Because what I feel is there's no substance, there's no education, there's no purpose in reading such books. However, this book kind of kept bumping into me time and time again. Like 6 months ago, it was a year ago that I decided to move to Thailand. And 6 months ago, a friend online suggested, you should read Private Dancer. So I said, yeah, whatever. Especially when they told me it was a fictional work. So I said, yeah, whatever. Then 2 months ago, again, a friend told me, listen, you need to read this book. It's Private Dancer. So I was like, yeah, someone told me that. But then again, I was not too interested. Finally, a week ago, a wise old man told me to read this book, Private Dancer. Now, this guy, okay, let me tell you something about this guy. This guy, well, for privacy, I just want to keep him anonymous because he requested me not to reveal his name. So this guy, his nickname is the Axe Murderer. It's more like the MMA fighter Wanderlei Silva. So this guy, okay, he's somewhere in his late 50s, 60s. He kind of looks more like Mr. Miyagi of the Karate Kid, mixed with this Mexican-American hero, anti-hero, Danny Tujero, who stars in, Quentin Tarantino's movies. And he looks a little bit like Stone Cold Steve Austin. So he has a mix of all these three traits. And, if you thought this guy was scary by appearance, let me tell you, he's this martial artist who apparently spent his entire life in maximum security prisons as a security guard, and also in all these crazy, dangerous places, because he was pretty good at defending himself. And now what he does is he teaches and trains people karate, or rather he trains and teaches people, not karate, sorry, how to defend themselves. If someone comes to you with a bottle, broken glass, or knife, or some weapon, so you can protect yourself. And most of the time on Facebook, you'd see this guy, doing this crazy ass, there's always these photographs of someone coming like this, and he's just holding. It's more like a Steven Seagal, the image I can give you is like Jackie Chan just giving God, and Bruce Lee, or it's more like having a guy who can just move his Twinkie and hurt you, So now obviously the question is, what has all this got to do with this book, Private Dancer? This guy who's in his 60s, more like Master Shifu of Kung Fu Panda. Whatever he speaks, it's worth listening to. He has a lot of wisdom and substance in his, that he gives from his mind and his heart. So when he told me, Loy, you better read this book, I was like, okay, fine. I didn't tell him that I don't read fictional books, but I said, okay, fine, I'll read it. So first and foremost, what I decided is, after I bought the book, not cheap, actually in Thailand, it's kind of expensive, 680 baht, which, overseas is not expensive, but here in Thailand it's expensive. So when I bought the book, I was more like, I'll read 10 pages a day, just 10 pages, and that's about it. And then when I feel interested, I'll read another 10 pages. However, the minute I opened this book and I started to read, I'll tell you that I just could not put this book down. I read and I read and I read and I read, and I finally finished reading the whole book. It is that good. I mean, if there's any book that really, sorry to use the language, but this is how I normally would say it, but if you want a book that fucks up your mind, really gives you a mind fuck, this is the book. The book is simply amazing. I couldn't put the book down. So, what's the book in a nutshell? It's a love story between an emotionally weak, unstable British journalist, Pete, okay, fictional guy, and a money-focused, self-righteous, super manipulative female whose name is Joy. Okay, she's a pole dancer. Now, long story short, Pete comes down to Thailand and sees this girl dancing, kind of falls in love with her, and then he feels like, oh, this is a poor girl, she looks like a small baby, because, bar girls are normally this small, petite, long-haired, cute-looking thing. So he felt, oh, I need to protect her. So he became the knight in the shiny armor. Then she would make her eyes big and small like this, and kind of ask him, give me money, and he would say, yeah, fine, okay, here, take this, and so that you don't have to do this work. And she would ask him, can you give me more money? I need to help my mother, my father, my brother, my sister. And he kept giving her money. Finally, well, it comes to the point in the book where you realize that she's already married to a Thai guy and she's taking care of him. She doesn't love this guy. She just believes that she is providing him a service. So that is why he's paying rent for it. And obviously because she knows how to manipulate these Farams, or these white guys as they call it. So she keeps telling, oh, I love you, and all that stuff. And he, like a bum, he falls for it, which you can't blame him. So anyway, towards the ending, I don't want to give you the story, the climax, but there is this anti-climax that takes place, which kind of makes you realize that in the real world, stuff just happens. So there's no happy ending. Happy ending, that's a nice pun. Okay. Anyway, the content is, the novel is divided into segments. There are parts where, like for example, if you see, this is Joy, this is what she says and she thinks of a situation. And then you have Pete, okay? So it goes like a particular situation that takes place, and first you'll get Pete speaking about it. Let's say, for example, let me just give you from the book itself. So here she gives the example of, Pete's, she's sleeping with Pete, and she says, it's simply like, how would I put it? Let's say one particular example whereby he looks at her and she says, I want money, and he gives her, let's say, 10,000, and she says, oh, you're so sweet, I love you. So he feels happy in his heart and says, see, I made a difference to her life. And then when it switches over to her, she says, what a son of a bitch, he just gave me 10,000, he expects me to pay my bills. What a dumb fuck, So it's like the same situation, but you get to see it from two different perspectives, and that really shocks you because it makes you wonder, like, oh my goodness, like for a minute you begin to think like, wow, it's so cute and nice, there's so much of love. But on the other side, the female is kind of faking her emotions, and she's like, what a bum, he's just giving me 10 grand, So the book is kind of divided into these two segments, and every character that comes in, you hear a different point of view. So where, let's say, for example, Pete feels he's connecting with this guy when he's sharing his sob story, and the guy's like, oh, I understand. And Pete feels like, what a good friend. When the guy starts sharing his thoughts, he says, what an asshole, he just is boring me to death with all this crap. So what did I love about this book? I love the manner in which the dialogues and the thoughts were kind of shared. One particular situation, you get two different points of view. I kind of felt that the author really got into the psyche of the character. And I would not say that all the Thai people think like this, but if you are targeting girls who work in a bar girls, yes, they do think like that. Because, they have a family to support. Most of the guys treat them like sexual objects, so they become desynthesized, as they call it. And they kind of realize there's no love in the real world. The only love that they have is with their fellow countryman, who speaks the same language. So they kind of do it just to survive. So they see these foreigners who come in as, oh, okay, they're here, I'm giving them a service, and he's paying me for it, that's about it. And they use these techniques, which is really thought-provoking, like making the eyes big, telling I love you, holding the hand, touching the neck, kissing on the cheek, which normally they don't do, but the reason why they do it is because they know it works with the, whites, as, that's the term used in the book, the foreigners. Okay, so conclusion is, just as meeting the axe murderer, this guy was thought-provoking, and he gave me advice on life. In the same way, I felt this book really, really opens your eyes to understand what emotion, what love, how women think, how men think, how the situation is different from two different angles. And if you really want to see things from the perspective I'm talking, just visit Pattaya, Bangkok, Chiang Mai, or any of the touristy districts. You'll always see this fat old man, really fat old man with a young, beautiful girl. And then you'll begin to wonder, like, yee, he's old enough to be her grandfather. What the fuck is she doing with him? So you will kind of understand why this happens, okay? And this is where you'll really get into the psyche, and this book kind of reveals that. So now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to judge them. I'm not trying to say all girls are like this, or Thai girls are like this, or Thai girls are bad, or bar girls are bad. No, even these foreigners who come there, like they're 60 years old. They if they would try to hang out with an 18-year-old girl back in Europe, they would get fucking arrested. They would lose their job. They would be disgraced. So it takes two hands to clap. So both of them are at fault. But then again, it's like I give you a service, you pay me for it. So it's shake hands somewhere in between. So in conclusion, what I feel is, Thailand is this amazing place with spirituality, with mysticism, with nature, so many things that are going on in so many different directions. So the sex tourism industry is a very small part of it, very small, but it's a very powerful, very prominent part of it. And it really makes you understand where these people come from, especially these bar girls and the sex tourists, and it kind of makes you understand everyone. So if you honestly ask me, if I were to give this book a one-liner, I would say that this is a must-have book. It's like a Bible. It's a must-read book for any tourist who is coming down to visit Thailand, because it will really, really open your eyes and make you understand what this industry is all about, how these women think, how foreigners think, and end of the day, it kind of opens your eyes to so many realities. So Loy from LoyMachedo.com, and it was Loy Machedo sharing with you his views on the most powerful book that I've ever read in terms of Thailand's sex industry. Okay, so seriously, you must read this. You must read this. And I'll tell you, I wish I'd read this a long time ago. So Stephen Leather, you did an amazing job with this book. Thank you very much. Loy from LoyMachedo.com giving you a 9.5 out of 10 for this book. 9.5. It's that good. Buy it, read it, and you'll never regret it. Loy from LoyMachedo.com, and who's Loy Machedo, and Think Personal Branding saying thank you very much for watching. Me saying goodbye for now.